Most High for taking the things of the world off of my shoulders.
Let me put some houses on my there real quick.
Yeah. Thank you, Father. Lord, you made my desires pure. Yeah. You made my desires pure. Yeah. You made my desires pure. Yeah. You made my desires pure. I want wisdom, understanding. I don't want no Grammy. I wanna live a righteous life with a righteous family. I want a wife that love you more than she love me. Wanna show my people that they royalty. Wanna live by your commands, on your word we stand. I'd rather be touching scriptures than touching these banks. The riches gon' profit nothing in a day of wrath. I was living in my mess, I had to take a bath. Created me a clean heart, all but made me pure. The things of the world, y'all, it's time to ignore. I want love, I want peace, I want everlasting life. Well done, my good and faithful servant, walking in that light. I'm on this narrow path, trying to save a soul. I want my people in Jerusalem, the days of hope. I wanna get to the homeless, show him that he cares. I wanna get a homeless, hope we almost out of here. Get your example through your son, and it's the only way. Ain't no pagans over here, we keepin' holy days. I want my people, stop the killing, we dropping the prophets. I want us come back to the laws, it ain't no other option. Don't want no hate up in my heart, not over no doctrine. I want the fruits of the spirit, y'all could keep the nonsense. I had to renew my mind, I had to free my conscience. I had to confess my sins, I had to be honest. I want the Ruach HaKodesh to come into me. I only trust the Father, not the enemy. The Father word, he came and cleansed the enemy. I only want the Spirit, so I'm killing me. The Father gave me righteous things that I desire. I want to see the kingdom, not the lake of fire. I don't want no drugs, scriptures got me higher. If we come in up here, how we gon' make it higher? Desires pure. You made my 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 desires pure. Haven't seen, ears haven't heard all that you had for me. Eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard all that you had for me. You made my desires pure. Haven't seen, ears haven't heard all that you had for me. You made my desires pure. Haven't seen, ears haven't heard all that you had for me. You made my desires pure. See all that weight that was on our shoulders. You made my desires pure. Was the things of this world. You made my desires pure. I want to say thank you, Father. You made my desires pure. Getting that weight off our shoulders. Hallelujah.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Facebook Live. Good morning, YouTube with Orlando, keeping it simple. How's everybody doing this morning? How's everybody doing this morning? Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. How's everybody doing this morning? I hope the Most High has truly blessed you over and abundantly with love, kindness, and joy. I hope the Most High really have truly blessed you with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. I hope the Most High really have truly blessed you more than you can imagine, and your offsprings. I really truly hope He has. You know, I really truly hope He has. I hope your week has been a good week. I can honestly say that my week has been a pretty decent week this week. I can't complain too much. I'm gonna tell you. Let me read this to y'all before I get started. Go to Isaiah chapter 3, verse 12, right? And this is what, and I'm gonna say this, and then I'm getting ready to get started. It says, "For as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err and destroy the ways of thy path." Right? But the Most High put on my heart this week, He said, it's not just ordinary men that's going through problems. It's not just broke men that's going through problems. He said, He showed me Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, right? And He showed me how Jada Pinkett disrespected her husband on her table talk when she told her husband that she had an affair with one of her son's friends. But he also showed me the incident that happened with him at the Oscars where he went up there and slapped Chris Rock. And he showed me where the other European actor who was just in court with his wife, and he divorced her. And just like the Patriots quarterback who just getting ready to get a divorce from his wife, he showed me, he said, it's not just poor men that's going through problems. It's rich men as well. He said rich and poor men are going through very similar problems, but they're on just different levels. You know, because sometimes we think rich men don't go through stuff, but rich men go through stuff just like poor men. And he showed me that, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit, because sometimes we think people are obsolete from issues and problems, but they're not obsolete. They're no different. They just may have money, but they may be going through problems in their home life. And it's not because if they're going through problems in their home life, then it's not because of the women, it's because of the men. We go through problems in our home life because it's us that didn't, it's us. Because if you look at people teaching the Bible today, mostly of them are men. People who's over the government, most of them are men. People who's basically control of police principalities, most of them are men. Judicial systems, most of them are men. And a lot of the times we're oppressing our own selves through certain things, but we're blaming on somebody else, but in actuality it's us. It's us that cause us our own problem because we don't stand up and do the things that we need to do to make things right. And he was showing me that. He was showing me, you just don't stand up. You're cowards. You're coward people. If you actually stood up and be a man, you can have the things that you desire. standing up being a man doesn't mean hitting on a woman. It just means having standards and following the commandments of the Most High. And having grounds that you stand on. And that's your responsibilities. He said, but because you have not decided to stand up and relinquish all your authorities, that's why you're being in the situation you're in today. He said, because you allowed yourself to go through those situations. And that's why you're in the situation you're in. I was reading in Isaiah chapter 3, verses 24, 25, and 26. And it says, and it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smells, there shall be stink, and instead of a girdle, a rent, instead of well set hair, baldness, and instead of a stomacher, a girdle of sackcloth, and burning instead of beauty. These men shall fall by the sword, and they mighty men in war. And her gate shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. And this one is talking about the judgment on the children of Israel or Judah. And it was talking to that because of their disobedience. But everything starts with the man. And how everything functions in society. Men, if you want a better society, you got to step up and be a part of society and quit relinquishing all your authorities to your woman or to your wife. And wives got to be more submissive to her husband. And some of y'all may not like that word submissive, but that is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be submissive to your husband. Respect what he say. Respect how he's trying to run the household. If you don't think that he's qualified for you to be submissive to, don't be with him. But that's what the Most High was showing me this week. He's like, Will Smith having a problem with his wife? What make you think a poor man won't have a problem with his wife? This is something that we have to realize. And it's all because of us not standing up being a man. Having principles, not allowing our house to be disrespected. You know? That's what he was showing me this week, and it's kind of messed with me a little bit because sometimes, you know, us as men, we'll run from a situation and just deal with the situation and have grounds. And it's like, I was looking at this female, she's a great athlete, she's a great person on the outside. But in actuality, yes, she wants to be in this physical fitness, a physical shape. She want to look good, but she's not just looking good for herself, but she's trying to be attractive to a man, to entice a man to come to talk to her or try to indulge a man in conversation. Most women, they do things for the attention of the opposite sex. Because that's what she understands her true natural purpose is to be in a relationship. But I saw this woman, she was in top dip condition. She know how to shoot a gun, she exercised, she know how to do all this stuff. But is she doing that stuff for herself, or is she doing that stuff to be able to attract the opposite sex to her, to develop a companionship? Because at the end of the day, that's what everybody desire to have, is companionship. But you got to fit within the realms of the companionship. You got to know whatever it is it's supposed to be. You know, and that's what he was showing me this week, is that women get their hair fixed. Yes, they want to get their hair fixed because that's their beauty. but they're getting their hair fixed to attract people to them. They get in shape, or they wear all these nice fancy clothes and all this stuff to attract the opposite sex. That's why they do that. But we as men, we got to stand up more. The reason why our communities are in a decapitated state is because we haven't truly stood up. Let me read you this article. No, let me go ahead and get started and I'll read you an article later. But it's our fault. It's our fault. It's not nobody else's fault but ours, because we didn't stand up. Exodus chapter 20 verses 1 through 17. Adam should have put Eve in check when she decided to entice him. He should have put her in check, but he didn't. He allowed her to entice him. We got to take responsibility. If we want all these things to stop happening in our community, we got to take responsibility. If we don't want the alphabet community to try to take over our community, we got to stand up. It's not nobody else's obligation but ours. Okay, and it says in Exodus chapter 20 verses 1 through 17. And El spake all these words, saying, I am Yahuwah thy El, which I brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other Els before me, and thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heavens above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah thy El, am a jealous El, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto 1,000 of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of Yahuwah thy El in vain, for Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy works, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah thy El. In it thou shalt not do any works, thou nor thy sons, nor thy daughters, thy manservants, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within the gates. For in 6 days Yahuwah made the heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore Yahuwah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy fathers and thy mother, that thy day be long upon the land which Yahuwah thy El giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbors, and thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor. Let us pray. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine to your kingdom, power, to your glory, forever and ever. So let it be. Amen, amen. And that European actor name was Johnny Depp. When he was on trial for his divorce case, it showed that his wife was really mistreating him and abusive to him. And she knew she could get away with it because she knew that the laws was on his side, on her side. So she intentionally did all the things that she did. But still, you know, us as men, we have to be more responsible for our actions. If we don't want the person we're with, leave them alone. Drop them. Leave them. Go on about your business. Get somebody else. You know. Let's turn to Exodus chapter 3 verses 1 through 15. I'm only going to deal with verse 7 and 8. I'm only going to deal with verse 7 and 8.
Lemon water, that's it.
I'm only dealing with 7 and 8 because this is a very familiar passage with everybody. This is right before the children of Israel getting ready to leave Egypt and the plagues are coming upon the earth. But something had to happen for the ignitement, for the start of everything to happen. Okay, let us go to verse 7 and 8. And it says, And Yahuwah said, I have surely seen the afflictions of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters. For I know their sorrows. Listen to that. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hands of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of the land unto a good land, and a large unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, and the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And the key verse again is, And Yahuwah said, I have surely seen the afflictions of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cries by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. Okay? If I may give a title of the teachings today, the title of the teachings today is Everything Starts with a Cry. Everything starts with a cry. Okay? And I'm going to use the word cry today. It's a mid-13th century word. The word cry is a mid-13th century word. It means to utter a loud voice, to speak or call or exclaim with passion. In a very general sense, to call demandingly, to utter a voice, a loud voice by way of earnest request of prayer means yell, speak earnestly and loudly, advertise by calling out. That's what it means by cry in the Bible. Cry doesn't mean weeping with tears. It means yells to make a supplications to the Most High. Okay? So when we start to look at the book of Exodus chapter 3, right? It's talking about when Moses was summoned to the burning bush to be able to get his mission and his purpose. And he was, and I want my wife to be able to understand this morning. He was summoned to the bush, and when he was summoned to the bush, he had a mission to do. And the reason why he had a mission reason why the Most High called him to that burning bush is because something was going on, and the Most High had to deal with it. And the Most High had to use a servant to be able to get somebody to deal with the cries of the people that was going on in Egypt. He had to get somebody to go deal with the problems that was going on in Egypt. And Moses was the great candidate for that job assignment, because Moses he was educated in Egypt. He was reared up in Egypt. He knew all the protocols. He knew all the stuff that was going on in Egypt. So he knew the culture, the way of life in Egypt. So Moses knew how to handle himself in Egypt. You know, he knew everything about the protocol in Egypt. He knew what he needed to do, how he needed to do it, the way he needed to do it. You know, but the only thing about the situation with Moses is that Moses was just a sharecropper. He was just a sheep herder in Midian. So Moses didn't feel that he had the abilities to be able to go to that assignment. He didn't feel like it, because it says in Exodus chapter 4 and verse 10, it says, And Moses said unto Yahuwah, O my Yahuwah, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of slow of tongue. Moses was saying that I'm not equipped to go talk to Pharaoh because I am not in a position of authority. So that's the reason why Moses was saying he was kind of hesitant to go talk to Pharaoh and take on this mission, is because he was looking at his physical position as him not being equipped to do the assignment. But the Most High, that's why the Most High used Aaron as his prophet and Moses as it appears to be as a god to Pharaoh, so God had to talk to a god. But the real reason why, and I want to deal with the reason why Moses was sent on the mission. Why Pharaoh was sent on the mission? Because there's always, today we're dealing with cause and effect. There's always a cause, then the effect of the cause. You know, it's like if I don't have a budget, I'm not gonna have money in the bank. If I'm not disciplined, I'm not gonna be successful. The cause is me being disciplined. And the effect is either I want to be successful or I won't be successful. That's the cause and effect. This is a cause and effect teachings today, because we got to understand this was after the time of all the children of Israel, all the head brothers, the 12 brothers of the children of Israel, they passed away. And so now that's why they didn't know Joseph. And Joseph had passed away at this time too. So then nobody know the children of Israel. They didn't know who they were. And they didn't understand how the children of Israel had successfully helped Egypt be successful. Just like today. It's just like the United States got to have amnesia because they really don't understand the impact of how African American people has helped this country become great. They have amnesia because they don't realize without our inventions, America would not be the way it is today. But they don't realize that because the people of the past didn't pass it down and let them know. But I want to read something out of the book of Jasher today. Just a few minutes. Out of the book of Jasher, chapter 63. Verse 2. Verse 1 and 2, and then I'm going to go to another chapter. And it reads, in the 93rd year died Levi, the son of Jacob in Egypt. And Levi was 137 years old when he died. And they put him into a coffin, and he was given into the hands of his children. And it came to pass after the death of Levi, when all Egypt saw that the sons of Jacob, the brother of Joseph, was dead, all the Egyptians began to afflict the children of Jacob, to embitter them and to embitter their lives from that day until the day of their going forth from Egypt. And they took from their hands all the vineyard and fields which Joseph had given unto them, and all the elegant houses in which the people of Israel lived, and all the fats of Egypt. And the Egyptians took all from the sons of Jacob in those days. So when you look at it, the children of Israel was living very good in Egypt. And they were living a prosperous life when the time of Joseph was there. So the Egyptians got jealous of the children of Israel when they was living in Egypt, because it appeared as if the children of Israel was living better than the Egyptians. And right today, because I live in the South, it really appears that the Hebrew people in the South really live really well. It appears that we live very good. My community, they living very decent. I don't know what's internally going on in their homes, but I know that they live very well. They're not struggling. I can't see the people struggling. I'm not saying that they're not struggling, but what appears from the outside is that Hebrews in the South are living pretty good. They're making it. They're doing it. Okay, and it says, and the hands of all the Egypts became more grievous in those days against the children of Israel, and the Egyptians injured the Israelites until the children of Israel was wearied of their lives and on the account of the Egyptians. And it came to pass in those days, the 102nd year of Israel going down to Egypt, that Pharaoh of Egypt died, and Melo, his son, reigned in his stead. And all the mighty men of Egypt and all the generation which knew Joseph and his brothers died in those days. See, the reason why they really afflicted the children of Israel was because everybody died in the history and it wasn't passed down for them to know. So they started to oppress the children of Israel. They started to oppress them because the children of Israel were more powerful and mightier than the Egyptians. And that's why I just said to you earlier, the reason why our communities and the reason why our society as a Hebrew or Black or American society are in chaos is because we have not taken hold of the authority and the position that we should. So when we don't take hold of the authority and the position that we should, yes, our society can be taken down. Because they understand who we are as a people. They understand the power and the anointing and the abilities that we have as a people. Together, working together as a unit. But if we don't understand it, a house cannot stand. A divided house cannot stand. So when we're looking at it, if our house is divided, the women against the men and the men against the women, yes, we can easily be conquered and divided and taken down. It's very important that we do what we're supposed to do. Okay, in chapter 65 in the book of Jasher, and then I'm get ready to get started in a few minutes. It reads, and it came to pass after these days that all the counselors of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and all the elders of Egypt assembled and came before the king and bowed down to the ground, and they sat before him. And the counselors and elders of Egypt spoke unto the king, saying, listen to this, and this is why I just said what I said. Behold, the people of the children of Israel is greater and mightier than we are. And thou knowest all the evil which they did to us in the roads when we returned from battle. See, your enemies understand your power and your anointing and your abilities. But do you understand your power, your anointings, and your abilities? Do you really truly understand the gift that the Most High has given you? Do you really understand? And look at all the inventions that has been created in the United States. It has benefited, it has blessed the whole world. Elevators, transmission in cars, stop signs, ironing boards. All these things were created by Hebrew or Black Americans, or indigenous people of this land. And the whole world was benefited from it. The cotton gin. Just look. It's so many things. I can't name them all. They understood that. So they had to do something to come against us. And it reads, and they said in verse 3, it said, behold, the children, okay, in verse 2 it says, and the counselors and the elders of Egypt spoke unto the king, saying, behold, the children of Israel is greater and mightier than we are. And thou knowest all the evil which they did to us in the road, when we returned from battle. And thou hast also seen their strong power. For this power is unto them from their fathers. But a few men stood up against a people numerous as the sand, and smote them at the edge of the sword, and of themselves not one has fallen. So that if they had been numerous, they would then have utterly destroyed them. Now therefore give us counsel, listen to that, counsel, what to do with them, until we gradually destroy them from amongst us, lest they become too numerous for us in the land. See, they took counsel. They understood. They knew what was going on. They understood the power. So they had to take some strategic methods to be able to get us, to destroy us, and to be able to get us to be oppressed. And see, a lot of the times, we as people, we think we're in a kumbaya land. Oh, it's kumbaya, kumbaya, kumbaya. No, it's not kumbaya. You can look at what's going on now with the banking system. The banking system this is an intentional design that was started back 2 years ago to bring down and to shut down the banking systems, to be able to control the masses of people. This was done 2 years ago to start this process. The Fed coin that they're going to come out later on this year, it was established in 2019. And I have been telling you all about that. They already got the Fed coin out. The reason why these banks failed, Signature Bank, the First Republic Bank, the Silvergate Bank, and those banks dealt with cryptocurrencies. See, you got to bring down your competitors so that you can the only one can survive and stay afloat. That's what's going on with Ukraine and Russia and NATO. You can't have a competitor on this market, on this stage. You can't have a competitor. You can't have somebody to be your rival. That's why for the last 75 years, the U.S. have been the bomb diggity, because they could not have a rival. That's why they set up this process. That's why they did what they did in Egypt. To keep the children of Israel oppressed, because they needed them to use them as tools. Just the same here in America, U.S. I'm going to read you this article. And one thing I do get tired of, I get tired of people saying, well, I'm going to wait on Yahuwah. I'm going to wait on the Lord. I'm going to wait on the Lord. Not accepting their responsibilities in the mess. Not accepting. You have a responsibilities in it too. Moses had a responsibility. Abraham had a responsibility. Daniel had a responsibility. All of the prophets had a responsibilities. They couldn't just sit behind it and wait on somebody to do something for them. They had a responsibility. And their responsibilities was to take care of their tribe. This article came out March 15th, 2023 at 1:42. It's called thedailymail.com. Black man who told his mom white men were chasing him and told police he feared for his life was found decapitated despite cops claiming no foul play. The family of a young black man from Mississippi who was found decapitated after warning his mother he was being followed by white men in trucks are calling for a federal probe into his death. Police previously said that there was no reason to suspect foul play in the death of Rashid Carter, 25, who appeared on in October and was found mutilated in a wooded area exactly 1 month later. But his family, who believe the police Taylorville are hiding details about his death, called for the probe on Monday after the results of an independent autopsy revealed his head had been severed from his body. Rashid Carter went missing on October the 2nd, 2022, only days after he called his mother and say white men in 3 trucks were pursuing him. Attorney Ben Crump urged the Justice Department to take over the investigation as a civil rights case and said during a press conference Monday, this was a notorious act. This was an evil act. Somebody murdered Mr. Carter, and we cannot let them get away with this. It's our fault that these things are happening. Because they understand that it's a major attack on our youth. It's a major attack on our youth, and we cannot understand that. We can't see it because we're in our own little world doing our own thing. But the counselors and elders of Egypt spoke unto the king and said, behold, the people of the children of Israel is greater and mightier than we are. And thou knowest all the evil which they did to us in the roads when we returned from battle. And thou hast also seen their strong power, for this power is unto them from their fathers. But for a few men stood up against a people numerous as the sand, and smote them at the edge of the sword, and of themselves not one has fallen. So that if they had been numerous, they would then have utterly destroyed them. Now therefore give us counsel what we to do with them, until we gradually destroy them from amongst us, lest they become too numerous for us in the land. For if the children of Israel should increase in the land, they will become an obstacle to us. And if any war should happen to take place, they with their great strength would join our enemies against us and fight against us, destroy us from the land and go away from it. So why was the crowd so great? Because the torture was so great. My wife received a phone call this morning. Somebody was crying on the phone because the pain was so great. See, we all been called to a situation. Whether you want to accept the situation or not, you've been called to a situation and you got to deal with that situation. You just got to do your part in the situation. You can't keep running and saying, oh, the Lord gonna take care for me. Oh, the Lord gonna take care for me. Oh, the Lord gonna take care for me. And see, the Most High showed me something. The Most High showed me something. he showed me something about Gideon this morning. Gideon chapter 7. And the reason why the Most High took Gideon through the processes is because he made sure that certain men was only equipped to fight the war. It wasn't everybody who was able to fight the war. And it says in Judges chapter 7 verse 3, it says, now therefore go to proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart from Mount Gilead. And there returned of the people 22,000. Out of 30,000 people, 22,000 people returned because they was afraid. And there remained 10,000 people. "22 people were scared to fight. "22 people scared to stand up. Now how can your situation be better when you're afraid to stand up? That's why the Most High used a young sheep herder to go against this great nation, to be able to stand up against them because of the people's cry. But everything starts with the cry. Movement starts with the cry. Everything starts with the cry. A healing process starts with the cry. That's why the children of Israel was delivered. Because he heard their cry. That means a uttered loud voice saying, why are we continuing to go through this mess? Why are we continuing to go through this junk? Why are we continuing to be treated like this? And it's on all realms. It is all situations. Let us go to Exodus chapter 2 because I want to deal with the word cry in verse 7. It says, and Yahuwah said, I have surely seen the afflictions of my people which are in Egypt, and I have heard their cry. I'm going to deal with that right now for a second. Let us go to Exodus chapter 22. Because we got to understand something. If your mouth ain't moving, ain't nothing going to happen. A closed mouth don't get fed. I'm going to 22 first, and it says, ye shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. What is going on here in the Americas? If thou afflict them in any wise, and they cry at all unto me, and they cry at all unto me, I will surely hear their cries, and my wrath shall wax hot, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. See, everything starts with that cry. Everything starts with the shout. Everything starts with the petition. If you're not opening your mouth to try to get something done, ain't nothing gonna get done. Let us go to Psalms 34. Some of you all got the Most High jacked up. Some of you all think that the Most High, oh, I'm wait on the Lord. Oh, I'm wait on the Lord. We just had a friend to buy a house. But she would have never had that house and she would have never tried to go get the house. If she would have just said, oh, I'm waiting on the Lord. Oh, she would never be living in that house right to this day. Anything that you do is righteous, the Most High is behind you. He will support it.
That's right. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Abba.
But some of you all fail to realize that, and some of you all think that sitting back, allowing your house to be broken into is righteous and saying, I'm going to wait on the Lord. That is righteous. No, He's going to punish you for not defending and protecting what He has given you. You're literally going to hell if there's a hell. You're literally going to hell if you don't protect and defend what He has told you to do and what He has given you. If you continue to be docile people, He's going to punish you more for that than anything else. It's a difference between kill and murder. Psalms 34, 5 and 6, and it reads, and they looked unto Him and were lightened, and their faces were not ashamed. The poor man cried, and Yahuwah heard him, and saved him out of all his troubles. Huh? Psalms 34, 5 and 6. And the angel of Yahuwah encamped around about them that feared Him, and delivered them. See, sometimes we got to make that cry. We got to speak out loud. Enough is enough. The reason why some countries hurt Muslim people is because they know Muslim people will die for a cause. They know Muslims, Islamic people will die for a cause. They know. One of the most person that you could ever be afraid of is a person who ain't afraid to die. A person who's not afraid to die, that's one of the most persons you can be fearful of. Because he's willing to do whatever it takes to get what he needs. Let's go to Isaiah. Isaiah 63. Isaiah 63, 9. And go to verse 8. And he said, For he said, surely they are my people, children that will not lie, so he was their Savior. In all their afflictions he was afflicted, and the angels of his presence saved them. In his love and his pity he redeemed them, and he bare them and carried them all the days of old. When you cry out, let's go back to Exodus chapter 3, verse 7. When you cry out, one of the things you recognizing about your situation is that it's not good. Something is not right in this situation in order for me to cry out in this situation. I was talking to this guy this week, and he said, man, sometimes I see stuff coming, but I feel like ain't nothing I can do about it, so I don't worry about it. I just turn my head and keep moving. And I said to him, I said, well, it's always something you can do about it if you don't do nothing but prepare for it. Because we was talking about the bank failures and the bank collapse and stuff like that. And he said, well, I see it coming, but it ain't nothing I can do. I said, well, you can do something about it, just depending on if you want to do something about it or not. You can't just keep turning your head to stuff and thinking it's not going to happen, that it's not going to happen. It's not going to affect you, and when it'll come, you ain't going to know what to do. Even if you ain't going to do nothing but cry out and say, Most High, what should I be doing in this time here? What should I be doing? How I should be doing it? Give me some guidance. Give me something. I see the bank's failures. I see that you're bringing this crypto in. I see they changing out of financial institutions. I see this food crisis. I see chaos and commotion over there over there in Europe. I see what should I be doing right now? That's a cry out, asking for directions. Verse 7 it says, and I'm gonna deal with it says, and Yahuwah said, I have seen the afflictions of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cries by reason of their taskmasters. I know their sorrows. He know the conditions. He know the conditions. The reason why he know their conditions is because they was crying out. He know their condition because they was telling him. And he also saw it. He saw their conditions. He saw what was actually happening. And see, sometimes people think they can get away with something, and they actually can't. Because somebody is crying out in the situation that they're in. Everybody ain't on the same level playing field. Somebody's going through some hardships because of somebody abusing somebody on some different level. And that person who's being abused is crying out to Yahuwah. And don't think that person's cries are not being heard. Especially if they're widows and fatherless and children. Don't think that their voice is not being heard. The word petition means to request. Conditions is a state, a situation, or an ailment. They was going through all of that. Let us go to Exodus chapter 1, verse 11. Their conditions. Therefore, if they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. Also, after that they shall have built with you for their daily hires. Drag yourself away from them daily, one by one, in secret, and then you shall rise up and become their taskmasters and officers, and ye shall leave them afterwards to build without wages, and they shall refuse. Then force them with all your might to build. And if you do this, it will be well with us to strengthen our land against the children of Israel, for on account of the fatigue of the building and the work. And the children would decrease, and the children of Israel would decrease, because you will deprive them from their wives day by day. And all the elders of Egypt heard the counsel of the king, and the counsel seemed good in their eyes, in the eyes of the servant of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all Egypt. And they did according to the words of king. The king said, I'm going to work them so hard that they don't even want to have sex with their wife. I'm going to work them so hard that they ain't going to want to do nothing but just go home and go to sleep. I'm going to work them so hard that they ain't going to want to do nothing. They ain't going to have the strength and the abilities to do nothing. Now what you hear on people when they're on their job? Man, they're trying to work like a Hebrew slave. People are getting tired of that. That's why young people are not working today. It ain't because they don't want to work. It's just simple fact that they ain't finna be put in that same condition that we were put in. These little young folks like, man, shoot, I ain't doing that. You crazy. Young people are refusing to be a servant in Pharaoh's kingdom. And we get mad with them. But they looking at it like, you the fool, not me. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong, But what I'm just telling you, their ideas and their thought process, because they understand, they see what mom and daddy went through. Mom and daddy worked 40, 50 years on that job, and now look how they are. They body beat up, everything bad on them. They can't do nothing. They got high blood pressure, diabetes. They got all these ailments, and they done worked all their life. Now they can't do nothing. Now what these kids looking at? I ain't studying that crap. Let's go to Numbers chapter 20. We the only people teach our kids to go get a job. And it says that Moses sent messengers from Kadesh unto the king of Edom. Thus said thy brother Israel, thou knowest all the travail that thou hast that has befallen us. Our fathers went down into Egypt, and we have dwelled in Egypt a long time. And the Egyptians vexed us and our fathers. And we cried unto Yahuwah, he heard our voice, and sent angels, and have brought us forth out of Egypt. And behold, we are in Kadesh, a city uttermost of thy border, uttermost of thy border. So it is known wherever the children of Israel have been, they've been vexed. They've been going through some hardships. That's been their conditions. Even though they benefited the country that they was in, the country messed them over. Just like over in Ghana now, right? I was reading an article this morning where some Hebrew families went over to Ghana to live. Now the authorities in Ghana are tearing the houses down because they're trying to build a alphabet home over there, alphabet hotel in the same place where the Hebrew community built their home. That making sense? Wherever the Hebrews go and they build, somebody want to tear it down and want to benefit off them. Let's go to Acts 7 and 9. 7 and 19, I'm sorry. I'm about done in a few minutes. It says, till another king arose, which knew not Joseph, the same dealt subtly with our kindreds, and evil entreated our fathers, so that they cast out their young children to the end they might not live. Just like when the children of Israel were multiplying, and the reason why Moses was sent down the river in a basket is because they was killing the 2-year-old children. Some of the they doing it today with the youth. Myocarditis. Myocarditis is a heart information of young people. The heart is swollen because of what happened to them. That's the side effects of something. The myocarditis or the myocarditis. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. If I'm not, look over me. But just look at it. The cries when everything starts when you start to cry. And it's not necessarily a cry in sorrow, it's a cry in complaining, anger, frustration, mad and bitterness. Weeping is when you're doing it in sorrow. It's a difference. I remember when I was going to the chiropractor, and the lady said, your joints are tight, she said, yell at it and watch it move. Because everything moves when something yells. Let the kids be in the house. It only moves when something yells. Let the kids be in the house not doing what they're supposed to do, and mom and dad are walking the house and they start yelling. What happened? Everybody start moving. Okay. That cry is a loud roar. African American men are Hebrew brothers. Let me tell you something. One of the most biggest threats, one of the most fearful things that ever could have been done is the Million Man March. That was one of the most threatful and fearful movements that could have ever been done in the United States. Because that was a loud cry for unity. And 1 million men came together for that unity. It didn't last long, but it came together. You showed Pharaoh at that time that you had the abilities and the powers to stand together. But it just took a cry. Pharaoh cried out loud, "Hey, let's have this Million Man March." That's all he said. That's all he said. We're going to have a Million Man March in Washington, D.C. That was a loud cry because of the conditions of the people. And what happened? There's a million men now. Let's go back to Exodus 3 and 8. Everything starts with that cry. I want you to understand something. The Most High have to move on righteous people when they start to cry out. Verse 8 in chapter 3 in Exodus. It says, "I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land unto a land good, a good land, and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites." He coming to do something. He coming to free the people because of their conditions, because they was crying out. And the Most High was showing me in the text too. Let's go to chapter 12 in Exodus, verses 11 and 12. This is what I was wrestling with this week too, right? This is what I was wrestling with too.
Exodus 12, 11.
Yeah, Exodus chapter 12, verse 11 and 12. This is what he showed me. Moses was sent to the children of Israel, right? Because of the afflictions that they was going through, because of the heavy burden that they was going through. But in order for the children to be delivered out of the house of Egypt, they didn't have to do anything, but just put blood on their doorposts. That's all they had to do. Let me read it to you. Exodus chapter 12 and 11, it says, "Thus shall ye eat it, and your loins girded with your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For listen, for I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborns of the land, both male and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt. I will execute judgment. I am Yahuwah." Go down to verse 22. This is what they had to do to be saved from the plague of the death angel coming through Egypt. Only thing they had to do, "And ye shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basket, and none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning. For Yahuwah will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he see the blood upon the door, the lintel, and on the 2 side posts, Yahuwah will pass over the door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come in your house to smite you. That's the only thing they needed to do to be saved during the time of the Exodus. The Most High didn't say you didn't have to believe in the commandment. He didn't say nothing, but he just said put blood of your doorpost. Go kill a lamb and put it up your doorpost. That's all he said. That was a monument because it was letting people know who you was. It was letting the Most High know, the death angel know that you was a child of Israel. It didn't say nothing else. And sometimes I think we get confused on that. Because that was on my mind this week too. I said because the Most High only dealt with the children of Israel in the wilderness. That's when he killed off most of the children in Israel. He killed them off in the wilderness. He didn't kill them off, or he didn't delete them in Egypt. He deleted them in the wilderness because they were still disobedient in the wilderness. He didn't do it in Egypt because he was basically dealing with the Egyptians because of what the Egyptians did. But when the Most High gets you to the wilderness, that's when he's going to deal with you and personally you. Because he showed you who he was in Egypt, and when he take you to the wilderness, if you're not willing to accept him then, that's when he's going to deal with you. That's when he's going to deal with you. But the cry has been sent out. Myocarditis is like the 10th plague. The 10th plague is taking the firstborn of the Egyptians. The firstborn of the Egyptians. Myocarditis is taking out some of the firstborns of the Egyptians. Okay. Young people are more likely to pass away of heart attack post C19 studies find. But why? Listen to this. This article came out February 9th, 2023. Listen to this. Young people are more likely to pass away of heart attacks post C19 study finds. But why? When Demi Washington, a basketball player at Vanderbilt University, came down with C19 in late 2020, her symptoms were mild, just a runny nose, but to ensure her safe return to the court, the school required her to undergo an MRI. The results brought Washington to tears. The following infections, the now college senior had developed myocarditis. When the heart muscle becomes inflamed, which can decrease the heart abilities to pump blood. The condition can lead to strokes or heart attacks, according to the Mayo Clinic. Washington was not against C19 at the time. I was scared because any internal organs you're like, oh my gosh, I need that to live, she recalled to Today. I didn't really know what was going on to come of it? How long was it going to take for it to be resolved? Washington had to skip the rest of the 21 and 2020 season. But ultimately, she was grateful. I think about the fact that Vanderbilt does do the MRI and a lot of other schools didn't. She told Today in a segment aired February the 9th, the fact that I could have played if we didn't is hard and scary to think about. Let me read that over. The fact that I could have played if we didn't is hard and scary to think about. Washington doctors never told her that she was at risk of dying because of myocarditis. But he did stress the importance of rest and keeping his heart rate under a certain pace. She had to wear a watch to trace her activities, even though C-19 was especially new at the time. Washington said her doctor felt confident her condition was due to the C-19, as he's seen something similar in other college athletes. Let me read this and I'll be finished. The crowd was great. The deliverance was great. The cry was because of the conditions. It wasn't a weeping cry. It was a cry of frustration and anger and bitterness because of their conditions, and they knew it wasn't right. And the people who was doing it knew it wasn't right, but they intentionally did it because of their benefits. I was talking to this guy yesterday. He said European veterans get 95% of 100% disabilities. But African American only get 35% of 100 disability. And 40% of the United States military is African American. But we don't even get treated the same to this point right here now. We're still sending our offspring out to serve a country that still don't treat us correctly. Let us go to Exodus chapter 6. It says, "Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am Yahuwah, I will bring you up out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgment." See, the Most High don't nobody want to be oppressed, nobody. "I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you a El, and ye shall know that I am Yahuwah your El, which brings you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians." That's the whole thing. That was the whole reason. The Most High didn't want us serving nobody else. He just want us to serve Him. He said, "I will bring you into a land concerning the which I swore to give to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, and I will give it to you for a heritage, for a lifetime. I am Yahuwah." 2 Kings 17 and 36. It says, "But Yahuwah, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt with great power, a stretched out arm, him shall ye fear, and him shall ye worship, and to him shall ye do sacrifice." And I say this all the time, and I'm going to close with it. How many people realize that slavery was destroyed here physically because of what Yahuwah did? He caused the brothers to go to war. He caused it to cease because they couldn't stop it. It had to be stopped. There's a lot of other stuff pertaining to that, the Geechee Gully Wars and all of that. You know, the native was constantly fighting in battle. But just from the history that they have given us, How many of us realize that the Most High had to bring that war so that everything can come to an end? He had two brothers to fight against each other. So what am I saying after all this? Everything starts with a great cry. Your deliverance, your healing, your salvation, your peace. All of it starts. Everything changes because of that great cry. The children of Israel cried. The reason why Russia is going against Ukraine because the Russians were being persecuted in Ukraine. Ukrainian killed over 15,000 Russians over a 6-year period of just bombing the Russians. So Putin heard the cries of the Russians and he went and got involved. The civil rights movement, it was moved because of a cry. Everything starts with that cry. And that cry is not weeping. That cry is complaining because of your conditions. And you want to be free from that condition. What are you crying about? Who are you crying to? Who are you crying to? Because if you be like my friend at work and say, well, there ain't nothing we can do about it, I guess it's going to stay the same. If your thought process is, well, okay, we can't do nothing about it, it'll stay the same. Imagine if the children of Israel said that. Well, we can't do nothing about it. I guess it'll stay the same. So let me pray so we can go. Abba, as we come to you today, we thank you, we bless you, we praise you, we give you all the honor and the glory. Abba, we thank you for everything you have done and what you continue to do. Abba, we understand the great cry. We understand that the great cry is not weeping and sorrow. The great cry is about us complaining about our condition and we want something done about it. The great cry was about we want to change our conditions. We want to be free from our condition because we know that the conditions are unjust. A man's head is being decapitated and they say ain't no foul play. The man's spine is being detached from his body, but they say it ain't no foul play. Young people are dying because of myocarditis and they say it ain't no foul play. People are still getting hung by trees. People can't even take their own money out the bank, but they say it ain't no foul play. There's a lot of stuff going on earth today. And your people are crying out to you, asking you to deliver them. Send them the spirit of a warrior. Send them the spirit of a faithful servant to do your will and your purpose, but just to stand on what's righteous. So they can be healed and delivered. So they can be set free from the oppression. Because in Genesis chapter 19, chapter 50. Genesis chapter 50 verses 19. And Joseph said unto them, fear not, for am I in the place of God. But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive. Now therefore fear ye not, for I will nourish you and your little ones. He comforted them and spake kindly unto them. And see, sometimes we think that the people who sold Joseph, who sold his brother, Joseph's brother sold him into slavery, they thought they were doing something evil. But we know it for something good. We knew that you would bring down the Egyptian because you wanted to show everybody who was in control. We see what's going on in the world today. The people who's messing with people's money in the bank. We know that you're doing something good out of it because you want to bring down this financial system. Because you don't want your people to be tracked and be enslaved to the system anymore. But we know that we got to go through this process. We know that we got to go through these moments. But we just ask that you be with us and you guide us and you lead us and you cover us and protect us and let us hear the way you want us to hear, see the way you want us to see, and speak the way you want us to speak. And all these things we pray in your higher name. So let it be. Shalom, shalom, shalom.
Shackles round my neck, around my arms, down to my feet. Can you hear the wailing women facing defeat? So cry, cry, so cry, cry. I can hear the cry from captivity. Shackles round my neck, around my arms, down to my feet. Can you hear the wailing women facing defeat? So cry, cry, so cry, cry. I can see the end in sight. The light at the end of the tunnel is shining bright. He has not forsaken us. Do you see the bow in the sky? He remembers his covenant. He's coming back for his bride. So prepare your heart. Let your light shine bright. Don't let your lamp run out at the bar. So some seed deep down in your soul. I know sometimes